Welcome to Be the Category of One. I'm Jenn Brown, leadership coach and COO. This podcast is about growth, mindset, and leading the way by choosing to stand apart in how you think, how you lead, and how you serve. Welcome to episode 4 of Be the Category of One. I'm really happy to have a dear friend and Deb, who works with me, who's actually been the producer of all of the episodes so far. So it's really fun to have her come on the other side of the camera.
So much fun.
Are you nervous?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And Amanda Lyons, who's an attorney in Manhattan, works for the firm Hach Rose. A dear friend of mine, we've mentored together for many years, so I'm happy to have you as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We've had a few delayed starts, so we did have the dogs, Charles and Sophia, who have now departed. So that this is going to be fun. So anyway, for those of you saying, ooh, the back room looks different, the background looks different. Well, we're at my house. I thought that the messaging has been so true to who I am in leadership. And since I went back to work when my daughter was 5, she's now 22, I was working from home. One of the first people to work from home before COVID made work from home even a thing. But it just worked for my lifestyle at that point, having a young child and hustling between showing up and being there for people and being there for my family. So I started that little work from home journey, and now I have a home office with 5 full-time employees, and today's my daughter's first day with us. Does that make it 6? Where are we at in the number count? Yeah, you have to go through.
5.
It's 5. Okay. So anyway, welcome to the 4th episode.
Yep.
Today, I invited you guys on because I wanted to break into leadership, but more specifically, I've been very much paying attention to women in leadership, because I think that no matter what business we're in, the amount of women in leadership doing it well, showing up, being able to balance their lives with their professional lives, I think it's really hard. I think it's a constant struggle, and I don't believe that many organizations support leaders in women in leadership. So I've been watching every person I've been around, the interaction with leadership, whether it's male leadership or women leadership. And I'm really amazed at how women really are able to show up in a very bigger way than I've ever noticed before, and more so. And I don't want to sound terrible here, but we are having a show with women. But I do think that we bring a very unique perspective to how we show up and how we elevate other people within an organization as women. I just think, I think we're built differently. I think we see things differently than men. And while I think it works for a lot of people in male-dominated leadership groups, I do think there's something really special about a woman-dominated leadership group. And I think that it does create a bit of a different culture for an organization. So, and I've been paying attention to that a lot lately with people that I've been meeting and speaking to, and even my own team, like that, for many years of working, I think Babylon Dental Care is unique, where we have a lot of different type of employees, right? Where we have some hygienists that are professionals. We have, for the first time, I think it's three female doctors right now. That's the most I've ever had. I have dental assistants, some that are just beginning their journey as dental assistants. Some have been in the profession for a very long time, have a bunch of different certifications, because there are dental assistant certifications that are out there, which is great. And then, I have a lot of front desk people that have a gamut of different knowledge prior to this role or even education. So it's a real diverse group. And while I love it because it has such diversity of types of people and what they bring in service, it also has challenges where you're talking to a different group of people with different educational backgrounds, different professional backgrounds. Like, how do you get the message to meet everyone?
Right.
You know, so, but I think for our environment in particular, I think that it's very well suited for women in leadership, because I think women do have the capacity to understand the diversity of different people in their professional space, if that makes sense. So right now, I think our leadership group is about 15. They're all women. They all have very, very different styles about them. They see things differently. They feel things differently. They pick up, they respond differently. And I love it because the blending of all really is a very special give back to the employee, and when I say give back to the employee, it's an opportunity to develop someone in their role.
Right.
You know, but anyway, so talk to me about, let's just in general talk about our leadership journeys. And what brought you into leadership, what you're doing, if leadership is your main hustle, your side hustle, because there are people that are actually in roles, not necessarily just leaders. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's start with you, Amanda.
Okay. So I kind of, I guess, hybrid leadership, because in addition to running our firm, I also am a practicing attorney. So I kind of have to wear two different hats at the same time throughout the day. And I think that that's something that makes women such unique leaders, right? Because I think only women have the ability to come in clear-headed, make decisions, make them based on the data that's in front of them, while also having that emotional component. So if you're dealing with, somebody that's on your support staff and you have to have a tough conversation, only women have the ability to have that conversation in the way it needs to be had to get the team member to be on the same page as you and to understand where you're coming from, and almost to think, and understand that maybe they're not in trouble. We're trying to help you. We're trying to help you grow and to move forward in your career, while at the same time being able to identify that team member may have an opportunity for growth or may need additional training. So I think that that's a really unique.
Our brains are always going.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in the moment, but we're like backstacking the information to analyze what's going on, and then afterwards unpacking it to see what's going on and what could be.
Yeah. And I think, that's probably one of the toughest things for women in leadership, right? Because especially in my industry, male-dominated industry, there's kind of this preconception that when women make decisions, they're emotional decisions, right? And something that I've learned in the 10 years that I've been moving along in leadership is I almost have to prove and back what I'm saying to prove that it's not an emotional decision. And even though the same decision may be made by somebody else and just viewed as the right decision, or, oh, that's a good idea, when it comes from women, you often feel that you have to prove why you feel that way or how you've gotten to that conclusion. So,
all right, you're saying so many things I have to jump in on. So first thing that you bring up, a really important topic to highlight. I think that women have the unique ability to show up in different professional spaces all in one day.
Yep.
Meaning many, and I have this a lot in my leadership group, and it's very, very hard. I think I'm the only one in the leadership group. Well, really there's two, but because they don't have direct leads under them, they're unable to just show up in leadership. I'm the only one who's really in leadership, meaning that's my job. But then my other job is to make a ton of decisions to move the company forward, right? But for the most part, I'm there as a full-on lead.
Yep.
When everyone's doing their job. When I have to stop and get involved in other things, but that's my choice, right? Because I want things done a certain way in a timely fashion. She's always coming in to rescue me out of those pits because I cannot let it go. I know I feel like I'm responsible for everything that happens, every decision that's made, good or bad, and everything we do going forward. So I get sidetracked. But that's a very important thing that I think men do struggle in that space. Okay, that's one. The second thing that you said that's really true is, and I want to talk about this a lot because I'm seeing it a lot, is it that we're made to feel that our decisions are emotionally based because someone is just not liking that we're making the decision? Or are we trained by society growing up that we don't make decisions pragmatically, that we're all in an emotional space? Like, which is it, right?
I think women make decisions every day, all day long, to the point where there's that fatigue at the end of the day. And I think whether it's a decision or having if you're in a conversation and there's men in the room, often you can disagree, but that disagreement and using your voice comes across differently than them disagreeing and them using their voice.
Right.
You know, I've been in the room where I've disagreed on something and I had somebody ask why I was being the B word. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm disagreeing with you. I don't agree with what you're recommending. That's not me being difficult. So I think there's just a little bit of a give and take where you have to, I had one boss where we just got to the point where I would say, I respectfully disagree. Because sometimes even disagreeing, when you're trying to say, this is why I made that decision, here's the data, we make decisions all day long. You don't stop making decisions as a woman, I don't think. You get home after work, what are you eating? Where are you getting the dog? And half the time, men don't think that way.
No.
So no. I find it's just, we're painted into a box a little bit where you can't be as rambunctious as some people because you come off different if you are.
I mean, I agree with that. I don't mean to, I don't want to feel like this is a bashing session. It's more where do we differ, and how do we bridge the gap when it happens that we differ? Like right now, you're in a industry where it's very male dominated. So you're still swimming in the pool with a lot of male energy. I'm in a different situation in my leadership group where I'm all with women, right, but that are coming from how society has made them feel, and having to step out of that because we don't have ownership of that space. I mean, if anything, I'm the most male dominating figure only because I'm very conscientious of everything that I do, everything that's done filters through me and it's on me. So I take that very seriously. But I think for the most part, it's hard for women to feel really validated in their decisions when they're with a group of a diverse group.
It can be too. Like in marketing, there's actually a lot of female in marketing and in C-level positions, and there's not as many men. So I've also had, in situations, I think we have a very unique, special situation at Babylon Dental Care because we're all aligned on here's the focus, here's the goal. There's not a competitive nature because we all have different functions. When you're in a corporate setting and you're working with women who are all trying to get to that C-level, it can be difficult because I'm more of a more soft-spoken person. I come across, if I'm angry, I take my time and I wait and then I speak, I have that difficult conversation. I don't like conflict. So, but there's certain people who are very blunt and I actually wish I could be like that. but I have to be true to myself and kind of be who I am. So it really depends. You could see it from men or other women. It just depends on how you lead and what the leadership style is.
It is really true. We do have a very unique environment. I've never seen women get along the way we all get along.
Yeah.
Like there isn't like the backstabbing or the pushing aside. There's no ego when they get in the room. It's really amazing. But I do find when we have a staff meeting, I think that the rest of the group doesn't know how to perceive that energy. And I think they don't always understand how very precious that is, that that group of women are getting along. Like we're not wasting time trying to push one out or another one aside. It's very black or white. If you do your job and you create value, you continue to grow in leadership. It's very black or white in my group. But the fact that there's not all that other stuff going on,
tension,
we are so much more available to do things to elevate others.
Right.
You have the time, because the nonsense not there. You have the time to think, like I have a dinner, this person really can, I had a dinner with someone, she's very young, and I'm telling you, at some point, she's going to go through, I saw it when I was sitting with her, she's going to go through my entire organization doing everything. I see it. I can see it. She's early 20s.
I'm like trying to think in my head who it is.
But that's really great, because when you're dealing with other things and other personalities and other big forces where you're not in alignment, and, or you're self-doubting and you don't feel like you could be yourself, you never have the moments to really recognize someone's potential value. Not what they're doing now, but where they can go. Because that's really leadership. I've interviewed so many people and I can't stand when I hear, I don't like the word manager. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. I feel like it's implying that you're herding cattle, or like you're managing a group. Like, I think real leadership is not necessarily management. I mean, my belief is you hire someone, you shake hands, you take a paycheck, there's an employment contract. It doesn't have to be on a top responsibility list, but I know I should be able to expect you're going to show up and do X, Y, and Z because that's part of your role, right? I don't really want to nitpick on what's happening. So when I'm in that space and I have those relationships, I can focus on elevating them. Maybe they have like unique abilities that they're showcasing within that, and I want to like pull them out. That's leadership. Taking someone, like being able to write on a job ad which is true. Like one of my leads, Jenn, she started as a front desk person in a dental office. She's now my practice administrator. That's beautiful. And I didn't lead her from the beginning, but whoever was above her and developed her and gave her that feeling that she can grow and learn, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I always look at, I'm training you to take my seat.
That's what I say all the time.
And, we have someone in our marketing department, Jenny, who she's fresh out of college and she's so special. She's like a unicorn, but I'm like, you can be me. And if you get to this, and this, you could be me. And I think if you lead from a place where you're not worried about self-preservation and you're leading, you can always still evolve with any company you're with.
100%.
And do something different or take on different work. And it just, to me, that's always been the magical part, And I have women that I've worked with. One's a CMO at another company. One was just on the top 10 to watch in the event marketing list. And it's great. We're so happy
morphing,
to see them. Yeah.
Women have the ability to morph.
Yeah.
It's nice. I don't ever, like, I see this a lot with men. They're career CFOs, or, it's like they've done one role forever.
Yeah. And I think too, just tying it back to the way that women show up in your space, I think it really comes down to your culture, right? And your mindset, which is, if you're encouraging an environment where you're supporting people and you're encouraging people to show up the way that they can be, or that they're capable of showing up, you're not going to see that, right? You're not going to see that cattiness. The other thing too is when it comes to leadership, if you're working with a team and you're not there, you're not present, you don't see what's going on, and you're not correcting behaviors, people then start to have that breakdown in relationship among themselves. Whereas when you're in the office, when you're a leader that's present, that sees what's going on, that's able to head off issues, you kind of foster that environment where people can understand that you're working together towards a common goal, and that basically there's room for everybody. You mentioned, Jen, starting at the front desk, and my career path was basically exactly the same. And that was only possible because I was in an environment that fostered that growth. I was in an environment that, the people above me were not scared to let me make a mistake. They were not scared to let me try something new. And I worked in every seat in the firm that I'm in. I started in reception, paralegal, office manager, attorney, managing attorney, and now partner and COO. So, it's something that also inspires other people around me to understand that if you put in the work, if you put in the effort, it doesn't matter who you are. Right. Showing up and delivering results and delivering good quality, high quality work will get you where you want to go. And I think it's important for other people in the organization to see those types of career paths, because anybody can say it, right? You go into a job interview, oh, we have great culture. We don't have a toxic work environment. People love to work for us. Okay, let's see it. And, something that makes me so proud as a leader is that those are the things we say in our interviews. And after people have been with us for, 90 days and they're sitting for a 90-day review or an annual, so often I hear, you guys said that in the interview, and I can see that you meant it. And that's probably one of the biggest compliments to our organization, because it's so important to me that if we're saying something, we have leadership in place that is living up to it. And hearing that feedback from the team is, a testament to that.
So how do you handle when people weaponize that against you? Because it happens. Because here's the other part of leadership.
Yeah.
You're the person when things don't go wrong, that things don't go right and they go wrong, to blame.
Right.
It's accountability.
That's the really hard thing. Yeah, but here's the thing. What's the percentage of employee accountability?
Yeah, I honestly, it's, you meet people who just aren't ready to accept it. And you have to, have that difficult conversation as you're not ready to accept this. But down the road, you're going to hear me. You're going to see something in your life, and you're going to think back to this moment and no, I shouldn't have done that, and I think you're right on culture, because I had this one CEO, and, I was like, if I'm going to work and I'm working with these people more so than I'm with my own family, I really want to enjoy what I'm doing. In our team, we like to laugh. We enjoy each other. We care about each other. And, not everybody fit in. It wasn't right for everybody. And she would say, that's not what I want to hear. I don't want you telling people that we want to enjoy what we're doing. And I was like, we're different people, and that's okay. And I still learned a ton from her, but I had to be accountable to know, okay, you can't do this around this person. You can't do this around this person. And if somebody's not willing to evolve and change, then that's not the right ship for them to be on.
I agree with you, but how do you handle when they swipe at you?
I mean, I'm always the optimist, but
honestly, it does happen.
It does. But I think that, on another podcast, we talked about right person, right seat, right? And I think that something that appears to be a negative, right? How do they turn this around on us? Kind of gets counteracted by the fact that, in our organization, we have the right person in the right seat. And we hired a phenomenal director of HR. She's amazing. And it matters. And it matters because the way that she has those conversations and the way that we structure those conversations as a leadership team, allows that conversation to go in a different way. We've been very mindful of the language that we use when we're speaking to team members, using the word you, it kind of sets a tone for a very negative conversation. So small changes like that, we, our, focusing on the team environment, it kind of shifts the tone of the meeting. And another perspective that we started taking is not about what somebody is doing wrong, but how does it impact our service to our client, and how does it impact our service to one another within the organization? So we had a difficult conversation recently, and I said, we have to make sure the tone is, how is this affecting the other people on the team? If you go in there saying, you should have, you didn't, you could have, you would have, all of those things, people become defensive. And then right away, you have that attitude where it's like, well, you said, and when you hired me, and the job description, and the this and the that. And, that turns around when you say, the fact that you called out yesterday caused so-and-so to have to take on 5 additional responsibilities, or the fact that you did this or you did that caused some type of hardship to someone else on their team. It kind of shifts their mindset to realize that their actions have consequences to others. And it kind of makes them a little more, I guess, emotional towards the other people on their team, whereas they might not have that same emotion towards the company or the business, right? Because in an ideal world, you have employees who treat it like their own, right? That's what people always say. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You are never going to have 100 employees and everyone shows up every day treating that organization like it's their own. The best you can hope for is that you have people that show up every day with a genuine interest in what they do and a willingness to show up in the way that they need to provide the service that your organization offers.
100%. And want to work with another group.
Right.
Where it's not like a lone wolf situation, but really like embrace collaboration. Because I don't think any organization really works without collaboration, but that person really has to participate in it. And when you do, like time and attendance is a very hot trigger point. But the reality is when time and attendance isn't really honored, and the line gets blurred, and it almost, I don't want to say the word, it becomes abused, but it becomes abused. It puts strain on other people.
Right.
And it may not be the same person each time. It might be this person that time, and this person that time, and that doctor this time. But eventually there becomes fatigue from someone not honoring time and attendance. Not everyone rolls in 5 minutes late, or 15 minutes late, or 5 minutes early, So it's like getting to know the energy and, what needs to happen to make everyone's, again, the goal should be when you get out of the car and you walk into a building, I'm on, and I'm going to bring it, and I'm going to have a great day. I have a doctor that's like very, very, very happy all the time. He's always like, have the best day, But he really believes it. He wants to go out and have the best day. I mean, when you're in a customer service business, you're in one, we're in one, to show up for the customer, all the backstage stuff, like being there on time, any prep work that has to be brought forth to start the day needs to be done. Like all those little things matter to the energy of the consumer, of giving the energy to consumer. Because the reality is, every person we interact with, we have the opportunity to change an entire experience just by interacting compassionately or empathetically, smiling, being present, not on the phone, all those little things. And for us, and I think it's I know your business pretty well too. It's probably the same thing. But, if someone had a experience where they didn't really feel the energy, maybe they were very anxious in the dental chair and they didn't really feel it from the dentist. The reality is when they come up to the front desk and they sit with patient coordinator and they sit face to face, they're sitting down and they're in that they're out of the chair, they have a moment to breathe, come down off of the nitrous, and they're actually with someone. Any discord or dis-ease that they felt in the chair or in that environment, that patient coordinator can change that whole situation around, or exacerbate this. Yeah.
Right.
Or throw gasoline on it, either way. But I do think it's hard because I think what happens is, especially for women, and again, I employ basically everyone's a woman, we have so much going on in our lives. And it's like, I don't know how long someone's drive is. I have no drive. So I need to wake up and reconcile all the personal decisions that I've had to do, all these things to be ready for someone to walk into my home office and be on.
Right.
And it's like, I don't even have that time to like decompress and release and breathe in new energy. It's like, boom. So, it's struggle. Someone drives, you get into a bad accident, you're late, you're sending emails that you're running late. I mean, you're already off. And then, oh, by the way, you have to be in front of a customer,
right?
And show up and turn, someone's energy. Like, I always think about the hardest role I believe in your law firm is the intake department.
Yes.
Because they're talking to people from an initial phone call, and something catastrophic has happened in their lives. All they can focus on is their loss, their injury, their damage, their anxiety, everything they've gone through, not knowing what's going to happen. They have no control. They're in an arena they probably know nothing about. And these intake people have, they got to grab all the information. They got to assess the injury, assess whether or not there's liability and there's a case, correct? And then also hold space for all the energy that this person has or is, throwing off and anxious about, and like turn it all around and make it like, okay, you've called the right place. We're going to figure this out. Here's the next step. Thank you for all this information. If you want to continue to, it's crazy, those calls, it's very hard to serve in that space and in that environment and all day.
Yeah. And when you see clients that are looking to switch their attorneys, the number one reason usually is my attorney doesn't call me back. They don't want to be bothered. They're not helping me. I asked them for this and they didn't help me, and all types of things like that. And, I think it goes back to, I always say, I think the biggest mistake you can make is not focusing on your culture. Why? Because at the end of the day, when you have people that are showing up and want to be there and want to do the job that they're there to do, the clients can feel that. They can feel it on the other side. So if you're hiring people that are just like, I'm just here for a paycheck, whatever, I'm going to clock in when I want to and leave when I want to, the client can feel that on the phone, or the potential client, whoever you're speaking to. So, hiring people that understand your organization's values, culture, all of those things.
Serve too.
Yeah.
Like you really have to find people that truly care about helping someone else,
right,
whatever it is, because we're all helping someone else.
Yeah.
And that's very hard because, again, we have so many other responsibilities, and sometimes we arrive depleted where we really should be full. And to start a day like that is hard. Start a 10-hour like that is really hard. But I've also said for years, the best way to heal yourself when you're in exact craziness and you can't see straight and you're losing your mind, you're in a bad mood, is get out of your own way and get on the phone with someone else.
Yeah.
Give yourself to someone else. That's the best way to heal whatever you're feeling. But not many people, have a toolbox like that where they know where to dig in and they're just in a frazzled state. But, again, in leadership, I think that it's really important to understand all these different backdrops of people and how to help them figure it out. Like I've had a lot of people where, I see them and I'm like, something's going on here. And again, I don't work in the dental offices. I'm remote. But I'm behind the scenes and my job is really to get the pulse without being there. And, but I'll know, like I could see sometimes in a staff meeting, I could see someone's energy is just, that's not them. And I'll bring them in. I'll be like, hey, is everything okay? What's going on? I'll be the first if something happens and I see, a late email come in or someone called out and it's something, like a family member. Is everything okay? Because I know the weight of all life on showing up, and it's hard sometimes. It's really sometimes hard for people to get it all together, especially young moms. I have a lot of young mothers right now, and it's really, really hard. So I think leadership is like, it's just a lot of balls in the air. So you got that ball, you got how you're, again, one of the big things in leadership that I talk about all the time, it is so important to be responsible for your message being received to match your intention. And that's very hard because a lot of people don't necessarily have high levels of emotional intelligence, which you have to have, and self-awareness. Our society doesn't teach self-awareness. And the more we're on devices and communicating through devices, we're actually teaching them not to develop that side of themselves.
Right.
Because when you're texting or, all right, so something's off when you don't see an emoji. I mean, that's not being self-aware.
Right.
That maybe a text was read a different way. And that's a very big thing in leadership that's very hard to develop. That's very hard. And I put a lot of people in leadership that were never really understanding of that and have had to, put a pause on things because if you can't do that, because again, 92 employees, each one is different. They're not the same and they all receive my messaging differently. That's why staff meetings are really challenging for me if I'm off energetically because, I got to work a room where every single person is throwing out a different vibe. And again, at a staff meeting, I'm responsible for delivering a message that's going to elevate the service, the culture, the team. So when I'm getting like a corner throwdown that this person is turned off, it's like, great. Now I think I'm just I think I'm going to try this staff meeting, just walking right over and sitting on their lap.
Like, how are you?
Messaging, hello, let's start again.
And getting reported to HR.
Yeah. But that stuff I seriously, that penetrates me constantly because, when you're in my role, it's all about that. That's my time with them. So I got to make that make sense and bring the most value.
And it's funny because especially when you first start working with someone, you really have to get to know that person, how they learn, how they take in information. Are they organized? Do they keep lists? Are they asking enough questions to even do the follow back? We had something recently and I probably should have done, do we have everything? Are we good? Because in my head, if you're okay, if you're walking away, but you just have to really get to know that person, and you're not going to do it if you're just, here's your task, do this job, do this, do that. You have to get to know them, and even if, like some people you connect with on a personal level right away, it's an easy relationship. Some people aren't as easy. You have to work harder. And
I think that's also very true, though, that leaders need to embody that in their group, with their team, with their leadership team and down and up, but it also has to go back up. So we need to mentor it down to be brought back up. I think that's a really important skill for every team member. And I don't think team members understand enough to like stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah.
Like when you're working with someone or there's a frustration, because I get a lot of those complaints, there's a frustration, but when I get the frustrations and I look at the two people, I'm like, they're not meshing. Right. But did they take the time to say, Amanda, talk to me about how you receive, what would be the best way that we communicate?
Right.
If you can't get that from someone, why not ask? Why not ask? What would be the best way? Like we do a mentorship. I think you do too. The mentor, the global. Do you do a global?
Not entirely.
Yeah. So we do a global training, and I love the concept. It's phenomenal. I don't think we're fully utilizing it. I don't think we're fully utilizing it because I don't think we're slowing down enough. Like when a mentor has a new hire, are you really connecting with them? Are you really like, hey, let's pull out the top responsibility. Let me run through some of them. Stand here. You're going to watch me for the next 10 minutes. You know, we're going to role play a little bit. Are you comfortable picking up a phone? Like they're not engaging on that level that they're making it worthwhile.
Right.
And that's something too that I think as leads, it's very hard to teach that to team members. And I think that's something that we have to think about.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because as a new person, I remember coming in and doing it, and I'm just like, it's like information overload at the beginning. And then they're like, well, this is how we book it. And this is how we book that. And I'm like, oh, I'm never going to remember. I don't even know who this person's name is. And it's a lot, but I think you can also devise it in a way. I just had to do it for someone this week that started. And I was like, these are the questions I want you to ask this person from your role. And, you know, she was like, oh, it didn't take any time at all. And I'm like, yeah, because it's very pointed. But if you had sat there, you might have not got that information from that person because they don't know what you're seeking and what you're going to do in your role, because we meet with all different groups. But I think it's a worthwhile program. It probably needs some tinkering.
I think it definitely needs tinkering, but I think that it's definitely not something to abandon.
No.
It's something to continue to refine, and work on. So we talked a little bit about women in leadership, leadership just in like leadership issues in general. Let's talk about finding focus, because I know you attended our leadership workshop, and I'm obsessed with that book, Finding Focus. I think that we live in an era, and a lot of it is our surrounding, but I think a lot of it is how our brains work. You know, when you really are in leadership, or you've been, you know, in a family unit for a long time, it's very fast paced, the amount of decisions we have to make. And when you make decisions, you're also gathering information, processing it, flipping it around, and then making the decision, and then you move to the next thing. And I think life in general is it's one of the reasons why I moved out to the North Fork. I just wanted a slower energy around me. It's very slow out here. There's no stoplights. I mean, you know, it's just the pace is different. But I'm still moving very fast, you know, but I can do that because I'm in a slower environment around me. So it's working for me. But how do you, in leadership, because at any moment you're being pulled to show up for someone, you know, that's the other thing too. I know you have an open, you know, your door's always open and people like roll in and out. How do you find
the drive-through, as I call it?
The drive-through.
How's that working?
How do you find focus or balance your energy so you can focus? Because we sometimes have to sit and do tasks that need focus. So what are some skills or tricks of the trade that you've learned or you're utilizing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I used to just do it all, right? If I was working on something and someone came to my door, I would stop, and then next thing I know, it's 3 people lined up, and while they're talking, I'm still working on what I'm doing. Next person's talking. They leave. I don't even remember what we talked about. I don't even remember the answer that I gave them. So, you know, a few months ago, I was in a car accident, and that kind of really slowed me down. And I had to start figuring out how I was going to work after suffering a brain injury. So it's been a really tough learning process, but it's helped me so much in developing skills that I wasn't good at as of 6 months ago. And that I always thought were kind of like a weakness, like,
Skills in what sense?
Well, so something we talked about at your event was everyone kept saying, well, I need to multitask. I need to multitask, which I know you hate.
I hate that word now. I don't even want to look at a resume when someone writes it.
And it's interesting because everyone thinks they should multitask, myself included. And
can we create a modified definition of multitasking that's not so big? I think it's necessary in many spaces, but the problem with us, because I mean, especially the three of us in this room, we're go-getters.
Yeah.
So we're never going to say no, and we're going to tackle it all. We just create lists that move to other lists that move to other lists. And I understand, today getting ready for this thing, these boys that are filming are going to be exhausted tonight. Like you are going to sleep like you've never slept in your life from being around us today. But I know it's necessary, but how do we make it less depleting and inefficient? She was on, I want to hear, because she was on a roll with that.
Well, I think that rather than, so I used to call it multitasking, now I call it prioritizing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the word.
Yeah, describe that though.
Because prioritizing is you're still doing multiple things. So in my role, I bounce from practicing law, dealing with clients, running an entire business, overseeing intake, overseeing other attorneys, overseeing support staff, overseeing our financials. I do it all.
I was adding I was waiting to add the financials.
So back I used to call it multitasking, right? And I would bounce from, okay, I'm speaking to one of my clients. Now I need to file a complaint. Then I need to make sure intake's performing. Oh, then I need to make sure we're on budget, and I need to do all of these things. And I would just bounce from thing to thing. And now I prioritize my weeks. I prioritize my days. So in a day, I'm still multitasking in that I touch every department.
You're jumping from item to item.
Yeah. But I'm not doing it at the same time. I'm not, writing checks and letting somebody talk at me while I'm trying to calculate numbers.
I mean, I'm terrible. I'm on the phone and I get a text and I'm responding to a text and I don't even remember who I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
I think my brain's like saying, you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You got to slow down. But yes, I think that's really
And it's not about saying no. Which is something I always struggled with, right? Like everyone says you need to have an open door policy, which I try to honor, but I can still have an open door policy and ask someone to come back in 10 minutes. It's okay.
I feel horrible doing this, but I do it often now. Laura will come to me and I know she has something for me and I know I've prompted her to do it, but I have to finish something before my brain can release that to go to that. And I unfortunately have, and I feel guilty about it, but I can't do it any other way.
And I think that's the problem, because why do we feel guilty? Unless somebody was on fire and you were choosing not to put them out, that's the only time you should feel guilty.
That's your point about prioritizing. You have to make that decision.
Right.
So I have to do projects often where I need to really think. And I really need to focus. And I will be there and I'm focused and I'm really not listening to what's going on. And someone will come up and I'm like, not now.
Right.
Because if I don't, I can't. And I think when you have those projects, you have to block your time and you have to put it on your calendar.
It's terrible. And I feel very bad that team members, I know there are people on our team that don't feel that they can do that.
Yeah.
And they're jumping all over the place. Like, I mean, I'm going to say that the dental assistants are taxed.
They are taxed. I can't even imagine being in their role.
It's insane. But like, I almost want to talk about, it's okay to not be able, I mean, you can't avoid something that has to happen, but can you take better steps to get there instead of stopping midway? Mm-hmm. How about completing that, giving someone the expectation of, I just need another minute to complete this, and then I'll be present there. Like, I don't think in general women do that enough.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I think what the problem most people, women and honestly anyone, is that lack of communication, right? Because what I always worried about was everyone needs me. Everyone needs me for something. every minute of the day. And I would always feel like I should stop what I'm doing because they need me. And, you know, relatively recently, I just decided when I'm having meetings with people, group meetings, to just start being honest with them. And I started to explain to them that when I send you away from my office, it's not because what you have to say isn't important, or I don't have time for you, or I don't value what you're bringing to me. It's that I need to focus on something and I need to finish it. But more importantly, when you catch me at a time like that, I'm not giving you what you actually need. I'm giving you a quick answer to get you out of my office so I don't lose track of what I'm actively working on. So when I ask you to come back, which I do regularly now, it's because I want to be able to sit, look at you, speak to you, communicate with you, get everything that you have to tell me instead of cutting you off after 30 seconds and saying, all right, what are the big points? Like, we got to get to it. And honestly, my team has been so receptive to it. And I've been trying to instill that skill in them to say, if I give you a deadline of Wednesday and your attorney comes to you and our managing partner comes to you and they need you to do something that's more important, don't wait for me to loop back on Friday and say, where are we? And you say, oh, sorry, I'm not done yet. And now I'm frustrated. Communicate with me on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Hey, I know you asked for this on Wednesday, but this one, that one, and the other one needs something from me. I could deliver by tomorrow.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a very important, I'm feeling that. I'm getting goose pimples. I wish people, people get so frightened that if they don't do something, they're in trouble, and people are not like, dumb it down. Stop, drop, and roll. Basic communication. I can't deliver. I know I said that. I can't deliver. The worst thing you can do, and again, in employment, it's a relationship. Whether you're having a relationship from team member to lead to team,
right.
Like, communicate that I can't get to you. The other thing too, I often hear, and I love your open door policy, I often get, you're always so busy. I am. I cannot apologize for the fact that I am always so busy, but don't weaponize that against me. Don't use that as an excuse for you not coming to me, because if you need me, I will make the time. It may not, unless it's of urgent matter, it may not just be in the moment that you're reaching out,
right?
Whichever way you choose to reach out to me. But I have never turned anyone away. I have never said, nope, I don't want to show up for that. I'm not hearing that. I'm not doing anything.
And isn't it interesting, because don't you
never
think
been there for me.
The natural, hi,
Sophia.
come on. Hi, girly. Don't you think the conversation to say, I know you asked for this by this date and I can't deliver it because A, B, and C, is always, no matter what, going to be easier and less scary than the conversation to say, I know you asked for this 3 days ago and it's still not done?
I don't know how to overcome that gap. But I struggle with it. It happens to me at least 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And for me, it happens with big projects that are very, very weighing heavy on me. So, and I, again, I have an intensity because I have a lot on my shoulders. I would never say to anyone,
it's not done.
I would never. I would totally work to modify expectations.
Yeah. So I've worked in a marketing agency, big, small, huge, 30-something years. I've always had clients. I didn't have that luxury of not delivering or not doing it. And I had to multitask, because when you have 3 clients calling you at the same time, you have to deliver. I always just think it's critical thinking and being smart enough to say, hey, I need help on something. This is going to take long. And the one thing I coach people to say is, hey, I'm working on this project. I'm having a little bit of some issues, but the reality is you need to show movement. You need to show you did something to move something from point A to point B, because just having this open window of this project,
it's insane. You blow yourself up, like you self implode. You do it yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it all the time to myself. I'm like, I'm going to take this task on. And this task could live with me till 6 months. I called her on Friday night and I had
She's like, can you help me out? I was like,
fell
yes.
on my sword. I'm like, I can't do this. I cannot bring this over the finish line. I'm struggling. I've gone back and forth a few times. I can't do this anymore. It's burning me out. My she's so funny. Can you not lick your paw? Don't let her do it. She's got anxiety. And I made her promise that I'm not blowing her up, and she took it. That's by the way, that's a beautiful thing when you communicate like that. But again, I want that for everyone that we talk to in our organization. But yeah, people I don't know why they struggle on
progress.
On making that simple communication happen instead of blowing it up.
To be honest, I think it's just an innate thing in most people, and it's almost a skill to unwork it. Like when you mentioned earlier about the staff meeting where somebody's like shooting you the eye, and then I think most times it's actually in your head, because we had a meeting recently where I delivered a sharp message, and it was hard for me to even make eye contact during the meeting because I felt people's eyes going through my soul. Like if they had a voodoo doll at home, they were poking me. And I was, at the end of the meeting, I was like, yikes, I don't know. I tried to water it down. I tried to deliver it the way I really wanted to. And I thought I did, but the eyes were making me think I didn't. And I said, you know what? It was a message that had to be delivered, and I delivered it, and I have to move on. I can't sit with this.
And forget it.
Except a few minutes later, I hear, they're excited about what you said. They're happy about what you said. They're relieved from what you said. And I'm like,
I didn't expect that reaction.
Yeah,
wasn't feeling that in the room.
I agree. I mean, sometimes you get all heady because it's not easy. Listen, it's really not easy to be a woman in leadership because you really are out there. You're really all exposed.
But I think the most important skill,
exposed position.
Yeah. And I think the most important skill that's people have to practice is digesting before you react. Mm-hmm. And I think in that meeting, if I would have said, how do you feel about me now? I probably would have got responses that were a little sharp, and I don't know if I could have handled them. But because time passed, even though it was only a few minutes, and people left, and maybe they talked amongst themselves, maybe they talked to themselves, I don't know. But then the information started to sink in, and they started to realize she's got a point. And because of that, by the time that time passed and the reaction was delivered to me, it was exactly what I had hoped for. And I think the same thing is true in communication when you're saying people aren't meshing and things like that. Well, you're probably not meshing because you're just going back and forth.
Correct. You're very caught up in the tasks that you're responsible for, and you're not thinking it through.
And you're not finding focus in that conversation.
Yes, you're not present. You're not. I know you want to use that. You love it. You love it.
Find my focus right now.
No, but it's true. You're not present in the conversation. You're just arming yourself to be defensive. You're arming yourself to answer. And I always say that. And I think one of the skills that got me so far in my career is that I do not respond quickly. There may be times that somebody finishes talking and I don't start for, 30, 45 seconds because I have to process it because I'm a sharp talker. And if I just jump, I'm going to 90% of the time say something that I didn't want to say. And whether it's something that, it doesn't always have to be something that would offend somebody or, something like that. It might just be not what I intended to say. It might be the response I didn't mean to give, or it was my initial response before actually thinking it through. So I think taking that time to just listen, pause, and it sounds cliche, but when you start implementing these things in your day-to-day, you really start to see the value in slowing 100%. It down.
I also think giving grace to yourself, because I think that when you when you set a high standard for yourself and then others have the standard of you, you know, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and sometimes you just, you know, lose it.
I'm like,
sometimes it's just too much.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite of you where I have to slow down. I overthink conversations to the point where I walk in and I feel like I've already had the conversation because I've been up all night like, I know what I'm going to say in my head. I'm like, and then this person's going to say this and this person's going to say that and I'm going to say this, but this. So like oftentimes like I'll come to you with things and I'm like, hey, I was thinking of something really weird. Like, and why am I thinking about that in the middle of the night? But I think often women do that. You overthink situations, and you know that's not great either. So
but I think
you have to give yourself grace and be like to stop.
You have to learn how to make that a superpower. I think that there are things that we can change when we become leads that we have to change. And then there are things about ourselves that are not going to change. And you really have to, it's just with everything else in life, make it your superpower. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm very cognizant of when it's not working energetically with a team member, it's not going to work with a team member. And I don't try to recreate things. I know how much I can bend. And then I know where it's not going to bend anymore. And I have to call it, you know? So I think just being really comfortable in who you are, what you're about, what your comfortability is really something you have to have. It's like a moral compass for everything you show up and do. Mm-hmm. But that's life, right? I mean, that's in relationships and everything we do. It's really great that we're able to come together and talk like this, because I think that people, especially women who want to grow their professional journeys, that first step into leadership is really hard. Actually, I'll go on the side a little bit and say that's one of the reasons why we created the leadership pathway. I don't know if I gave it to you to watch.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we realized, because we do need a lot of leads in our particular organization, there was no framework of really what it was expected. It was like, I had a dinner, we tapped them, I asked them what they thought leadership would be, I'd go back with them, and then it's like, I don't have the time to develop them in their role, you know? So we started this leadership pathway, and we have 2 phenomenal leads going through it right now. And I'm so happy because we'll also modify it based on their feedback, which is also great about us, because we're always looking to how can we make this better? What can we capture here to enhance whatever it is that we're doing? But so these girls are going through it, they're going to come through it. But that was like the hardest thing when you're a lead. How do you develop your team of leads?
Right. Because
there are so many things that are not role trainable in what goes on. Like all the things that we've spoken about is like touch, feel, empathy, emotion, because there is emotion with everyone. Everyone has emotion. Men have emotion. If a man leader he snaps at you, that's an emotional response to something. So everybody has emotion. Just how do you use it in the space that you're in? That's the only thing about emotion. But there's so much that it's not something that can be taught. It's like circumstance by circumstance. Like give me leadership examples. I can't.
Right.
I can't. How I'm showing up in this conversation is different than how I showed up last week when I ran a leadership workshop. It's going to be different than I message next week in my leadership space. It's going to be different in 4 private phone calls I'm going to have about leadership.
Well, and each leader is different too. Your style is very different than my style, than your style. And what we bring to the table is very different. But it's a hard first step.
When you go from being a team member to stepping into leadership,
the pressure.
What do you do?
And to be honest,
how do you do it? How do you show up? You know, I mean, it's a muscle.
Yeah.
It's a muscle that has to be used and has to be developed. And the more you do, I was saying it to Amber last week or a few weeks ago. I caught her after a day of work, and she was like, I don't know if I did this right. I said, chuck it in the fucking bucket. It's over. You did it right. You showed up. It doesn't, there's no right or wrong.
Right.
It's about using the muscle. And you're going to change. You're never going to show up in the same environment, same space twice, the same way. You're not.
The one thing I find is working with different leaders when you get into leadership is picking up what you value from each leader.
Love it.
So I've had leaders that have been, we haven't connected, we're oil and water, but I can tell you from that one woman, I probably learned more than anything else. And then even leaders who you're not enjoying or you don't enjoy working with, you just got to pick them up. You got to pick up what they're putting down. And there's always a lesson, even in the negative. In the 100%. Negative, where's the lesson? And the other thing is, when you're in leadership, is really relying on your peers and being able to call them and be like, okay, someone taught me this. I'm venting. I need to walk through this situation I had with so-and-so today. Can you believe it? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, now I feel good. I could go handle it. You know, leaning on your peers in leadership is so important because you also learn a lot from each other. 100%. You know, I look at Jacqueline on our clinical team, and when I first started here, I was like, you know everything. You just know everything. Anytime I had a question, she'd be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, know everything. She just knows everything.
She's someone who
she's a powerhouse.
She fills the bucket, you know, on the knowledge bucket.
Yeah,
that's another
powerhouse.
thing. Like it's like, you know, it's a combination of like a muscle, you know, like a very very fragile and precious muscle. But there are things you have to learn, and the thing that really hinders someone in leadership is that's not in my role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think those two.
That's not in my, you know, that doesn't fall under me.
Yeah.
That's really hard because the reality is there's no role. Leadership is like a bleeding of everything and anything. The more you know, the more impact you're going to have to those you lead because people respect that. They look at you like, she took the time. Hi, Maximilian. Everybody needs to be involved. You know, she took the time to, and by the way, same thing with a team member. I want team members that learn everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to have a front desk go in and be clinical. I mean, we just don't have that environment, but it's really good. The more front desk knows about the clinical side, the more clinical side, the more clinical side knows about front desk, the better people can perform. So, but the initial step from being a team member to stepping up and leading is very hard because like we have girls that, you know, one of the hardest things that immediately has to happen is you change the landscape of your relationships with your team. Mm-hmm. And how do you manage that?
Yeah.
How do you turn that not to a bad, but you strengthen it in a different space? That's very hard for people who step. And I saw that with you when you were stepping up through the ranks, going from, you know, you were in the firm forever. So it's like you went in all of these roles. There are some people that are still lawyers looking at you like, how did this all happen? This is like a blink of an eye, you know? Right. And how you energetically respond to even that feeling that might be out there or may not be out there. You might feel it and it's not even out there. It might be something you just hold because you're like, oh my gosh, how did I go from here? You know, the imposter syndrome. Like, how did I go from that to here?
Yeah.
You know, I'm constantly like, I don't know how I got here. I was a reading teacher. I don't know how I got here, but I'm here and I'm just filling the knowledge bucket. I'm developing the muscle and I'm trying to get people to believe in what I'll do for them.
Right.
Which is another hard thing that leads have to do. I mean, you're only as good as the people who trust you to lead them.
Yep.
They have to feel like you're there. You're there for them. You're there to better them. You're there to promote them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that one of the problems is people just think that, oh, leadership, it's so much, it's so complex. And I thought the same thing, moving, you know, through my organization. I was like, things started to get more and more scary as I got higher up. And honestly, I realized that it really boils down to three things: your skill, emotional intelligence, and self-accountability. Because if you could master those three skills being one of them, you can truly do anything. And when you show up and you're willing to say things like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, you're able to hold yourself accountable, you're able to control yourself in emotional conversations or difficult conversations, your team picks up on that. And, you know, I just celebrated 10 years with the firm at the end of last month, and we did a celebration and we had cake and everything. And I was forced to make a speech, which isn't in my comfortability level, but I did it anyway. But a big theme of that was thanking the people that work with me. And you could start to see on their faces that they truly understand, because I put forth an environment and an attitude that no one here is any better than anybody else. We work together for the common goal of growing this law firm, showing up for our clients, and showing up for ourselves. And, you know, everybody around me laughs at me, because you may walk into the office at 6 a.m. I'm building a filing cabinet. You might walk into the office at 10 a.m. and I'm underneath somebody's desk reconnecting their computer, playing IT. And then I'm going and I'm taking a deposition. And then I'm going and I'm reviewing financial reports and I'm reworking the budget. And it's like, she will literally do anything. But my team knows that I'm not too good for anything. And I think that's what makes you a respectable leader.
So that's, it totally is. And that was my last question. It's always the last question. So describe being a category of one in leadership.
Playing IT and building the filing cabinets.
To me, it's about caring about the team to want to see them excel and enjoy what they're doing. And I do think not everybody's made to be a leader, because being a leader just isn't showing up at 6 a.m. and building. You have to grind.
Yeah.
And some people are just happy doing their job, caring about their job, but they also have other things that are important and they're not climbing the ladder.
Right.
But those people matter to me just as much as my future leaders do.
Yeah.
Because without them, we can't get all the jobs done.
Right.
So I think there is a little bit of, becoming a leader. And when you want to be a leader, you have to be willing to do the extra work. It's not just walking into an office and telling people what to do.
Yep.
You have to get into it. And you often have to learn skills that weren't on your bingo card that day, but
That's a good one. Not on your bingo card.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of cliche, but honestly, leading by example. And I don't think enough leaders truly value that simple concept that we've been hearing probably our entire lives, no matter how old you are. Because it's true. If I'm sitting here telling my team time and attendance is important, but I don't show up,
early,
then that's when you have those conversations and they say, but you didn't. And if you're a leader that your team can say things like that to you, then you don't belong being a leader.
I love it. It's true. It's very true.
It's like the things your parents told you.
Yeah.
Be nice to others if you don't want to, treat somebody how you want to be treated. I always think back to those little lessons you taught in your classroom.
Yeah.
Those little things. I'm always like, oh,
yep.
such a
And you
simple
come back
concept.
around and realize that life is literally that simple, or it could be.
Yeah.
And even something as complex as being a leader running 100 plus employees, lead by example. Be kind, be nice to others, treat others how you want to be treated. You come up with all of these little simple things and you realize
It's what you learned in kindergarten.
if you just do the basics, you start getting people showing up on time. I'm in the office every morning, 6 a.m. Few excuses that prevent that from happening. And it's not that anyone's looking for me at 6 a.m. I show up at that time because that's my quiet time. It's my time. But my team knows when they start walking through that door at 7:30, I'm running around that office doing all types of crazy things when they come in. But it sets the example for them. And it's not about, I have to be there at a certain time because my team's going to hold me accountable. It's that they know when they get there, I'm there and we're ready to go.
Setting the example.
And it's setting the example.
Yep.
Like you,
Love it.
our
I am
the early
shining
bird.
star. Nothing makes me happier than when Deb's name pops on my phone at 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, yes, Deb, let's run.
I can't.
I'm like, you could call me now, but give me 20. I'm like, just stepping out of the shower, but I'm on.
It's so funny.
It's 5 a.m.
Thank
club.
you, ladies. Hi, Max. So how is
Thank
it? How is it doing a podcast in the house?
It's interesting being on this side
yeah.
because I'm usually sitting on the other side.
Yeah.
It's been fun, and I'm glad I did it because we do have a lot of team members who are like, I don't want to do it. I don't want
And
to do it.
lead by
And
example.
I'm leading by example because I don't like to be in front of the camera, but
It's not.
it's a
really not
conversation.
bad. It's very.
it's really a
conversational.
conversation.
I've not had anyone who leaves. They're like, that was terrible.
No, it's
Everyone
not
starts,
terrible.
calming down.
Yeah.
I do like. I did like having it in the house. There was just a lot of chaos, maybe.
It was just a day, but
yeah.
that's okay. That's how we
a normal
roll.
day. Normal day.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate having you both.
Thank you.
I appreciate having you in my lives. I appreciate running, with you as ladies in leadership, because I do think it is really important to promote women in these roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Very
sure.
much
can,
so.
little by little, make it a better place. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you.
Thank you.